So today is my wife and I's 22nd anniversary since we started dating, and we've accomplished a lot together, and I thought I would just celebrate that by documenting the urban homestead we've built together here in its winter configuration. So you can see the wood stove is going in the background there in the chimney. The tanks are empty, the water tank's off to the side, and the solar panels are covered in snow right now. And we've been shoveling the driveway and the sidewalk up onto the plantings here so that we'll harvest that water for the spring. We've got cages around this Nanking cherry and the sea buckthorn and the plum. They're all covered to keep the rodents from eating the bark. The same with these Arctic kiwis here on the trellis. We've got the front window south facing right now with this nice sunshine coming in, heating the house, and over the night we'll put those blinds back up for a little bit of extra insulation. You can see at the downspout here that we've added on this extra downspout right now for the winter, so that in the late fall and early spring, while things are still freezing, then the water will bypass the tanks because we don't want the tanks to get filled with water and burst right now. But none of that water is wasted. It will all still come down into the system and be held in our biological porous sponge here. What a gorgeous day, right? So it's about minus 20 Celsius right now. And we got the metal roof installed this spring, and we hassled the installers from the last day they were working on it to get snow guards installed, and that still has to happen. So earlier, a couple weeks ago when it got warm, a bunch of that fell onto the trail here. So always projects, always upgrades to happen. We've got little window well covers here. When there's more snow, then I'll shovel snow on top of there for extra insulation, and it's super cozy inside then. The snow blocks out the light and you feel like you're sleeping in an igloo or something like that. It's really nice. It's that winter nesting down kind of feeling. And you can see here a little bit that the rabbits have been using our yard as habitat, going around to the neighborhood and collecting fertility and then depositing it here as they hang out in our yard. So that's perfect. That's going to fertilize all of these raspberries, these sour cherries. Our neighbor has their amazingly gorgeous mountain ash here. What an amazing plant to have right outside your kitchen window to look at while you're washing dishes, and to watch the Bohemian waxwings come and feast on at some point later in the year. And as we continue on here to the backyard, we get to the attached sunroom here. So this is an unheated section of the house, but it acts as a super insulator for the rest of the house. So on this north side here, that's a nice buffer against the cold north winds, and it acts as a fridge or a freezer depending how cold it is. We've added some insulation there, so now it's often a fridge more than a freezer, but right now with it being this cold outside, it's certainly a freezer. So we store odds and ends in there. We store some firewood in there so that we don't have to come all the way out to the woodshed when we use up what's in the basement. And last winter we had some rodent problems, and we had to switch from using just a large compost bin on the ground to those black ones that you can see back here, those roller bins that are separated from the ground. The rodents can't get in there, but they can't hold that much, and the compost is not breaking down while it's this cold out. So what we've ended up having to do now is put the compost into cardboard boxes. I'll put that cardboard box out here and freeze it, and then I'll take it on my e-bike to the municipal compost and drop it off there. And a neat little pattern that's emerged is when you bring these bins of firewood back outside, they've got inevitably a bunch of this type of stuff. The squirrels have been hanging out in the woodshed and shucking the nuts out of pine cones. And so all of that I just throw down here as grip, so that works really well. I need to empty it out of the bin so less of it gets in the house, but I also need this to not slip on the ice, so that all works out real well. You can see This bed, which had some kale in it, has just recently been finished. So you can just leave that kale to freeze the whole winter through, as long as it doesn't thaw out and freeze again too much, or if it doesn't get too warm during a freeze-thaw cycle, which we were kind of running that risk a little bit before. You can see here, this is our very last kale plant, so that's not bad for January 5th in USDA Zone 3. We will just cut that off and bring it inside, and as long as it gets straight into the pan right away, it'll just brighten up nice and green, and it's great. So here's those roller compost bins I was mentioning before, and we've got all kinds of stuff stored in the pathways. So the whole yard is being strategically used in each of the 4 seasonal cycles. We've got some perennial plants that are being stored in the raised beds here. These are my air prune boxes that I made a video about previously. There's the grapes, and then the seeds are in these front ones. You can see the apple tree is also ringed. There's the wood stove giving off its water vapor. And there's our heat pump, which we just had installed this spring as well. And then of course there's all of the firewood. So this is 3 cords of wood in our woodshed here. And this is wood that needs to season for next year, but it's nice to just store it here. And then as the woodshed gets emptied throughout the winter, I'll put this inside. I enjoyed some nice exercise outdoors, splitting all of this wood, which we got from a friend earlier in the season. And yeah, everything gets rearranged and stored in different ways. But we've accomplished a lot. There's been a lot of transformation in the time that we've lived here and made this our home.